guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with my May wrap-up for the second half of May. I did read 15 books in this month of the second half, and I read 15 books in the first half, so I did read 30 books total this month. Most were audiobooks. I was having not the best time reading physically. I just was super busy with the end of the school year, and I've been on summer break for 4 days now, and I have had no time to read, so I've just been really busy. But once this week is over, things will die down and I'll get back into reading, so hopefully next month I read more. But I'm still surprised that I've read 15 books in the last 15 days. So I will go ahead and get to all the books, and I will link down below the first half wrap up if you're interested in that. But I only read, I believe, 2 historicals, and those were for my book clubs. All the rest were contemporary or dark romance. So I'll go ahead and get to the books I read. So the first one I read was because my members voted for this as one of the books they got for their member exclusive reading vlog. That went up about mid-May. I finished this like on the 15th, 16th of May. And so that first book is Darlene Venom by Parker S. Huntington. I did listen to the audiobook of this, and I gave it 3 stars. So I was pretty bored with this romance, and I didn't love the romance. So this one is very dark. So the heroine meets this guy at the top of a roof, and they both were there to die by suicide. And so they make a pact to not go through with their plan and to meet each other on that roof every year on Valentine's Day, because that's her birthday. And so they do, and then one year she is late getting there and he ends up dying, and she harbors a lot of guilt for that. And now we fast forward a few years, and she is working for a publisher, and the hero's that guy's older brother, and he harbors a lot of guilt too. He's a gynecologist. This was a little weird. So there were some scenes that were supposed to be like spicy scenes during like a pap smear, and as a woman who has gotten pap smears, like, that is not a fun time, and things happening in here I was just having a really hard time envisioning. And so I was really pulled out of their romance. I feel like the hero didn't have that much of a personality, just he was very damaged from what happened with his brother and his father. His father's a really famous author, but he's also a deadbeat and a drunk, and we do explore a lot more with like the dad's relationship and stuff with the brother as opposed to like the actual romance. So I feel like as a romance this was really lacking for me, and as a book that's 450 pages long, it was not that entertaining. Not a lot actually happened. I just had a hard time caring about this plot, and I just like wanted it to be over, so I gave it 3 stars. I'm not obsessed with the romance, and the romance wasn't even that great to me, and I don't know, I just feel like I was missing something. So definitely an unpopular opinion, but I was not obsessed with this like everybody else is. Then I did read Tattered by Devney Perry. This is a small town romance. It's the first one in her Lark Cove series, I believe. This was actually a secret baby, but not like on purpose. So our hero and our heroine meet at a bar, and there's instant chemistry between them. They have an amazing night together, and the hero leaves. He goes back to like New York or something, and the heroine figures out she's pregnant. I think she only knows his first name. I don't think she knows anything else about him, and so she can't find him, and so she raises her daughter on her own. The hero shows up, and sees her, and she's like, I have to tell him. She has like a 9-year-old child at this point, and so she immediately tells him, and he is like, I'm a father? Like, what? And so he really has to reevaluate things that he's doing. He is a very successful, like, millionaire businessman. He's in town to, like, build this camp or something. I don't remember exactly why he was in town for, but it's something to do with his money. And so they end up having to reconnect, and he has to connect with his daughter. And I really loved how it wasn't easy for him. Like, the daughter was like, oh, this is my dad? Okay, but she's like, but I don't want to move, and I don't want this to happen, and he really has to work hard to connect with his daughter. So I had a lot of fun with this. I gave it 4 stars. I don't know if I will give a Devney Perry a 5-star. I have read so many of her books now, and I've given them all 4 stars, except for I think The Birthday List I read a long time ago, and I really enjoyed that one. But so far this series is pretty good, but there was a whole like stalker thing that felt very random to me, and I feel like she always feels a need to put some kind of romantic suspense at the end of her small town romances, and I'm like, you didn't need that. Like, it is not a necessary plot device for a small town romance. So I could have done without that, but I did enjoy it. I listened to the audio, and I'm definitely going to continue on the series. And then I read the ebook of The Wrong Heart by Jennifer Hartman. I got it from Kindle Unlimited, and it was so emotional. So Jennifer Hartman, I interviewed on my channel. I can link that interview down below. I wanted to read this before talking to her, and this one, our hero, he is in a suicide support group, and our heroine is as well. So our heroine, she actually lost her husband, and in the beginning we see her and her husband madly in love. They're obsessed with each other, and he is hit by a car and dies. His heart is given to someone, and so she asks the doctor for the information for the person that the heart went to. She's not supposed to give it to her, but she does. And so our heroine reaches out and is emailing this guy who has her husband's heart. She's also in the support group and starts growing close to our hero, and they start falling for each other. But you can kind of see where it goes about what happens between the person she's emailing and the person she sees in real life. I don't want to spoil anything, but it was pretty obvious from the start what was happening, and this was just very, very emotional. They have a lot of dark pasts, especially the hero was abused as a child, and so he has a lot to overcome. He is very scarred. He never shows people himself, and he doesn't find like he wants intimacy. He has not found someone that he really can be vulnerable with, and so that changes when he meets our heroine. I really liked it, but they are in a suicide support group, so they are around people who have those thoughts and feelings and are dealing with the same things they are, so that's explored in here, so know that. But I do think that there was an element added at the end that like should have been fleshed out a little more with a certain character, but overall I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4.5 stars. Definitely very, very emotional, so be prepared if you read this book. Then I listened to the audiobook of Delilah Green Doesn't Care. This one is also a small town romance, which I actually really enjoyed, and it did not have any suspense elements whatsoever in it. So this one's actually sapphic, and our one heroine, Delilah, she is a photographer. She used to be a very misfit in her past. Her father passed away, I believe, and so she was raised by her stepmother, and she never felt like she belonged. She felt like she was a burden to her stepmother, and she just really did not like her stepsister and felt like her stepsister hated her. Her stepsister and her friend group, she just felt ostracized from, and so Delilah immediately like gets out of there. She has her own photography business. She's doing really well. She's covered in tattoos. She comes home for the weekend, or like the week, for her stepsister's wedding. She's hired to be the photographer for her stepsister, and her romance is with one of her stepsister's best friends. So it's a sister's friend, best friend romance, and it's so cute. The best friend's name is Claire, and Claire's actually a single mother, and she is dealing with some drama in her relationship with her baby's father. Her child though is like 8 or something, and she actually sees Delilah walk into a bar, is super attracted to her, and hits on her without knowing it's Delilah, and they have to really flesh out their past and confront things that had happened in their past and confront their relationship now, especially between Delilah and her sister, and I just really, really love this romance. I give it 4 stars. I do think it went on like a little long, like it's a really long book. It is 370 pages for a contemporary romance, but I really adored it. A great small town romance, and Claire owns a bookshop, which was really fun. Then I listened to the audiobook of Where the Blame Lies by Mia Sheridan. This is actually a romantic suspense, and it deals with a heroine who had been abducted and assaulted for a long time. She got pregnant by her abductor and gave birth by herself, chained to a wall in this like abandoned basement. And what happened was she gave birth, the kidnapper came, took the baby away, and never came back, and she actually freed herself. And so she got out, and then she knew who it was. It was a neighbor that had done it to her, and so the neighbor actually killed himself before police could get to him. So she's just moved on with her life, but she's always been trying to track down her son. And so 9 years pass, and a copycat killer has popped up. 2 women were found the same way she was kept kidnapped, and so they're like, there's no way that this could be the same person. He's dead. But the detective in charge of the case was actually one of the cops that helped protect her when she escaped, and he is now in charge of the case, and he is asking her for her help, so she is helping with this case. There were a lot of twists and turns. It's a romantic suspense, so the detective and our heroine do end up falling in love, and it's definitely, the romance takes a backseat. Like, it is definitely more suspense driven. I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. I was very entertained throughout the whole thing. I really need to read more romantic suspense, but also this takes place in Oxford, Ohio, which is where Miami University is, which I went to college at, which was super fun. The heroine did go to UC, University of Cincinnati, but she moved to Oxford, and I thought that was really fun because like I know the area and I lived there for 4 years. So Mia Sheridan, I believe, lives in Cincinnati, so she does have a lot of books set there. But there were lots of twists and turns in here, kind of the little spooky situations, so I actually enjoyed this one. It kind of had small town feels too, because she lived in this house she was trying to rebuild. Her aunt had left it to her and she's trying to rebuild it to open up as a like bed and breakfast, and it's like neighbors all know what's going on, and so I had fun. I'm glad I picked it up. Then I DNF'd a book, which I never DNF, and I was 70% into this book, but I was feeling really slumpy. I was listening to the audio and I had a 30-minute drive ahead of me, and I was like, I'm gonna dread these next 30 minutes. So I read Fallen, I believe it's CN something. It'll be here. This is an angel romance, and it just felt all over the place. Like, it had so many good tropes. Our heroine is like a thief and she's on the run from these bad guys, and she knows she can get to this club where she goes to like the exclusive level. The bad guys can't follow her, and her friend is one of the like courtesans in this club, and so she was like, let me take your place, and the friend's like, okay. So she ends up being like an escort for this like really dangerous fallen angel, and then the angel, she like talks back to him and he's intrigued by her, so she wants her to be his own personal courtesan, and then it goes from there. And like, it sounds so good, but like, I had no idea what was going on in this world. I had no idea who the hero was, what his point was, what are the fallen angels, like what is going on. And I was 70% into this book, and then once she arrived at his house, I was like, nothing was really happening. She was supposed to be like trying to find something. I don't even know. I was like, I don't even get what the point of this book is. It's not that well written and I don't care about the romance, so I'm gonna DNF it, and I did. So I stopped at about 70%. I wasn't impressed. Would have given it like 2 stars anyway. If you can't tell, I've been really in the mood for small town romances. I just think they're so cozy and good. So I read Tattered Stars by Catherine Cowles. I gave this one 4 stars. This one, our heroine actually escaped from her, well, not like escaped. She was in a family who were like doomsdayer people. They didn't trust anybody. They never go to the doctor. They have these really strict gender roles, and so they feel like everyone's out to get them, and so they're very paranoid. And her father actually had kidnapped someone. He kidnapped a little girl from the town, and they live at a ranch like a little bit ways away from the town. It's like, in this one, it's really small town. They have to drive like an hour to get to the hospital, so it's like really in the middle of nowhere. And so our heroine ends up telling the police there's this girl kidnapped on the property. So the girl is rescued, but her family absolutely hates her. Her dad goes to jail. Everyone blames her, and she moves away, but now she's coming back to inherit this ranch. She's gonna rebuild it to build an animal sanctuary, and the hero is actually the chief of police in town, and he immediately hates her because it was his sister that was kidnapped. And he doesn't blame her, but like, he only thinks about the fact that his sister was kidnapped. He blames himself for the sister being kidnapped and kind of projects that onto our heroine, even though she's the one like who helped her escape. And so it's their romance though, because there are people that are doing bad things to her ranch, and she doesn't know who it is, and she like kind of thinks she knows, but there's a little bit of mystery involved as well, like romantic suspense. Of course, in here, someone gets kidnapped, but she really finds community in them. Like, when her barn gets burnt down by someone, all these people come and help her out, and she actually really starts connecting with his sister, who is still trying to overcome the trauma she went through. And so I had a lot of fun with this. The romance did take a little bit of a backseat. I feel like the romance isn't as prominent in small town romances. It's more about like the small town and the romantic suspense, but I gave 4 to 5 stars. I still enjoy this, and I'm excited to continue on in the series. Then I finally listened to the audiobook of Varsity Dad Dilemma by Lex Martin. This one is so fun. It is a new adult college romance. I was sent this by the author, but I did buy the audio on Audible when it was on sale, and so this one, our heroine lives across the street from her brother and his teammates. Her and her brother are kind of estranged because their parents died and their uncle only wanted to take in her brother. He didn't want to take in her, and so she ended up kind of going through, she went with I think a different relative, but then like went through the foster care system, and her brother lived with the uncle, so like they haven't seen each other in a long time, but they go to the same college now, and they don't really talk a lot. Her brother's on the football team. She is like doing an internship or something at a school. She wants to be a teacher, and one night during Halloween, I believe, like a raging Halloween party, a baby is left on the door. And all the guys, they're just like 20-year-old football players. They see the baby and they're like, and the note was like ruined, and all they can see is that it's someone's child, but it didn't say whose. So all of them were like, out of like the 5 of them, they're like, whose baby is this? So they decided to do a paternity test, but they don't have like time, so they have to wait a couple days, so they're all taking care of this baby. The heroine was like, this could be my niece, I'm gonna help you guys out, so she helps them out, and the hero of this book is one of the guys who lives there, and he actually kind of dated her their freshman year, and he blew her off. And I will say, I did not love his reasoning for that. It was a really stupid reason, and that's really why I gave this 4 out instead of 5 stars, because it was just, she ended up asking him, she's like, why did you end up like abandoning me and like pushing me away when we were starting a thing when we were freshmen? That's why she hates his guts, because he just like completely turned on her. She was, I think, his tutor or something, I don't remember. They spent a lot of time together as freshmen, and he had a really stupid excuse, and I was like, really? But she helps out with this kid. We find out pretty early on whose child it is, and she continues to help out, and it's very, very sweet. I really enjoy this one, and he's trying to figure out how to be a good football player, and his dad really doesn't care about him, and he also can't really afford to do all this stuff for this baby because they're all like chipping in right now because until they figure out who the dad is, and I thought it was really fun. I've never read a book with this premise, and I liked how he was a football player, and I liked how there was kind of hate to love, and she's trying to bond with her brother as well and kind of mend their relationship, so really enjoyed this one. Then I, on audio, listened to Goddess of the Hunt by Tessa Dare. This is Tessa Dare's first book, and it kind of just jumped right in. So our heroine shows up at this guy's doorsteps and starts kissing him, and she's like, I need to practice kissing. I'm in love with Toby. I'm in love with this other guy who's in our friend group. They have a friend group of, really, it's just her brother's friends, and so she approaches the one friend and is like, you're gonna teach me how to like seduce him, and he's like, no. But they end up kissing, and she is like, but I'm in love with Toby and I'm gonna marry him. But Toby is currently courting someone else, and so she tries to do these antics trying to get I'm pretty sure it's Toby's attention, and it's her brother's best friend too, so it's a brother's best friend trope, and like, it's hilarious. It's really funny, comedic things happen. It's Tessa Dare. She writes really fun romances, but then her and Jeremy, the brother's best friend, have to have a marriage of convenience for a certain reason, and things go on from there. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy listening to this. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I do think a lot of it is a bit forgettable because now I'm like, what were the major plot points in here? But overall, it was just, if you want a good time, if you enjoy Tessa Dare's humor, I would recommend picking this up. Then I started a vlog that I might abandon. I don't know, because I got stuck on the other 2 in this vlog, and that's reading duets that I never finished. So I did finish this, but I have not continued on with this vlog yet, and I don't know if I want to yet, but I finally finished Mafia Darling. So this is a book to Mafia Mistress, and this one was good. I don't think it was necessary for the whole book because they're not super long, and they could have definitely been consolidated into just one book, but this is a mafia romance where the hero is the head of a mafia. He had taken our heroine to marry his son, but he fell for her instead. So there's definitely a giant cliffhanger in book 1. She gets kidnapped, and so he's trying to get her back in this book, getting retribution on the people that kidnapped her, and then obviously they're gonna have to mend their relationship, and so because they end up together. But I did enjoy this. I wanted more of his son, and we did end up getting more, but I would have liked to see more of that like close relationship with the son that our heroine had, because they were really close friends, even though she was supposed to like get married to him, but she was falling for his dad. I had fun. It was a fun time. Don't expect too much out of the series, but I give it 4 out of 5 stars. Then I picked up Texas Destiny by Lorraine Heath. I read this in a day and a half for our Historical Hellions book club, and this one is a mail order bride romance, but she is supposed to marry the hero's brother, and the hero is sent by his brother to pick up his wife. So he goes to the train station, meets her, and they have to travel 2 weeks together to get back to his brother's ranch. And the brother is like super successful, super charming, super good looking, and she ends up falling for our hero, who is picking her up, and she is engaged to his brother. I love when she's between brothers. That's one of my favorite tropes, and the hero is actually heavily scarred. He was in the Civil War as a child, and he blames himself for his father's death, and he harbors a lot of guilt for that, and he thinks that he's really ugly and no woman would want him, and so he always like tries to face away so that his scar is like hidden, and our heroine is just trying to pull out anything from him. She asks him a lot of questions, talks to him. They're stuck together for 2 weeks. They almost die a couple times. It is so fun. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I mean, there technically is cheating in here because she's engaged to the brother the whole time, and she's like falling for the other brother, and the brother knows she's engaged to his brother, but he still like kisses her at some times and is super like cuddly with her. But there were some funny moments in here. I was really entertained. I'm excited to read more in this series because it's about the other brothers, and I liked his younger brother because it's Dallas, Houston, and Austin, named after the cities in Texas. But I really enjoyed this one as a Western. Then I read The Lucky Heart by Devney Perry, and this one was okay. So it is I believe it was friends to lovers, but like they would like hook up in the past, and now it is the present, and the hero's finally like, we're gonna be together. And I just feel like this series is not like really for me. I give it 3.5 stars. I didn't really love it. Again, like the plot was really forgettable. So in the past, she was actually dating his friend, and he'd always loved her, but the friend actually ends up dying after she leaves, and she blames herself for him getting into drugs, so she has a lot of guilt over that. But she's back home in their hometown and finally the hero's like, you belong with me, and it's their romance. It was fine. I gave it 3.5 stars, nothing special. I wasn't like super excited about the romance, but I don't know if I will continue on this series because every book has just been like fine, but forgettable. Then I picked up Racer by Katie Evans because Sam from Sam Reads a Little talked about it in one of her recent videos, and I was like, I want more race car driving romances. And so our hero is actually a street racer, and our heroine, her family owns a team, a Formula One team, and they really need new drivers. And so she is on the hunt for a new driver. She meets our hero when she is at like a test drive of drivers, and she has her list of who she thinks is good, and the hero takes it, crosses everyone's name out, and writes his on there, and he's like, come to this address tonight, and she sees him race. They have instant chemistry. It's very like insta-lust, insta-love kind of thing. I gave it 3.5 stars. It was okay. I would have liked more. Like, they're traveling all over the world together, and I would have loved a lot more of them like going out and like seeing things. It just felt like we went like boom, boom, boom from place to place to place, and him doing well, him not. Know that he does deal with a specific health thing going on, especially like his mental health, and he does have to deal with that and that impacting his driving. But I thought it was fine. I expected a little bit more from it, but I enjoyed it. I like sports romances, so I would like to read more. I know this author, this is book like 6 in the series, and it's got a lot of sports romances in it, so I have to go back and read those. Then I listened to the audiobook of Goodbye Paradise by Serena Bowen. This one, I expected more cult from it because I knew that the heroes, it's MM, they escaped a cult together and fall in love. They were only in a cult for like 15% of the book. The hero actually gets kicked out of the cult, and the other hero runs away so they can be together, and they have to make their way to a different state where someone else who was kicked out is at. I don't know if they're like really cousins, they call each other cousins, but she had escaped herself and is like married with a baby on the way at this like ranch, and so they have to find their way there and kind of explore the real world together and fall in love. And they were obviously taught like being gay is like absolutely horrible, a sin, so they want to hide it from everybody, and they feel like they are like awful people for falling in love with each other. And so it's their romance, and I really enjoy this one. I do wish we had more cult scenes, but I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. It was really sweet how they were adapting to real life and how they were trying to figure out how they could move out on their own and get jobs and explore their relationship with the people they're living with, because they had a baby, so they're helping raise the baby, but then she has some health issues of her own they have to deal with. So very sweet romance, but like I said, I would have liked a little bit more cult stuff because I like the darker aspect of the romance, and that really wasn't in here. But overall, I did enjoy this one. And the last audiobook I read was Game Changer by Rachel Reed. This is another MM romance, but it's hockey. Our hero is the captain of his hockey team. He's a super stud player, like really great, and he goes into this smoothie place after a workout and meets our other hero who is working there, and the other hero is kind of in a rut in his life. He has a degree in history, and he would love to work in like museums and stuff, but he's really underqualified. He knows he has to go get his master's. He still lives at home. He's like 25, but they really hit it off when they meet, and so the hockey player ends up writing his number down for him at one point after coming in like every game day, because now it's his ritual to get this blueberry smoothie from him, and he thinks that's why he's playing well. They start seeing each other, but the hockey player is not out openly because of his profession. He says that there are a lot of people who are very homophobic in hockey, and he doesn't know like what that'll do for his sponsorships or his teammates, and so he's really scared and nervous too. And the other hero, he is openly gay. He's like, I don't want to be in a closeted relationship. He is madly in love. They fall madly in love with one another, but then they have to deal with being in the limelight with being a hockey player and where that goes from there. And then this does have the trope though where like one of them's really rich and offers to pay stuff for the other one. The other one's like, no, I could never. And I'm like, take the money, like just take it. Don't just forget about your pride. Let him pay if he wants to, because he has got the money. But he just didn't want that power imbalance in their relationship, which I get. But this was a really sweet hockey romance. I gave it 4 stars, more like 4.5. I really liked the ending. I liked how the friends were involved and reacted. It was really fun, and I love a good hockey romance, so I'm definitely excited to continue on because I've heard book 2 is even better. And those are all the books that I read in the second half of May. Let me know if you've read any of these and what your favorite book of May was. I would love to hear. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye.